everyone. Shabbat Shalom. We're not used to just saying hi. Hi back. I wanted to share a few words of reflection before we move into our Torah service, before we get to hear from Levi Behrman, who's here with us today to celebrate. His family, friends are here as well. We got a couple of folks who are eager for that, so I won't take very long. But I wanted to share a little teaching because we happen to be in a very special time period. So I spoke with a friend a couple of months ago when, thank God, we were finally seeing the alleviation of the height of the pandemic as we had experienced it to that point. And this friend is a doctor and had been working really as close to this pandemic as one could possibly be. And so we were talking, right? Vaccination being finally widely available, and it was actually having an impact, as we know they do. And I said, okay, so now, can you catch your breath? Can you take a moment, you and your teams? And she said, well, we just kept going, right? There's a lot to do. There's so many people to take care of there. It's like back to all the other abundant issues and health challenges that people have. And COVID, of course, was not done. And we're seeing it, unfortunately, right now rise again. And I was really struck talking to her and talking to so many people, honestly, but especially someone who had been so deeply impacted by everything that was going on and so close to it all. She hadn't taken a moment. And it's something I've heard from so many people, and I've noticed for myself as well. It's like as things have opened up, thank God, it's just, we're like, okay, great, and it goes so fast, and we're just moving ahead. And I think we need a beat, right? We need a minute. We need more than a minute. And today we happen to be at a really beautiful spot in the Jewish calendar, because you may have known that the last few weeks were a period called the 3 weeks, and it's a period of increased, intense mourning and grief that culminated last Saturday night and Sunday with Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, the day on which we commemorate pretty much as many horrible things as we can imagine that have happened to the Jewish people over time. We put them on Tisha B'Av, or we say that they happened on Tisha B'Av. The destruction of both holy temples in Jerusalem in 586 BCE and 70 CE, Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, crusades, different events in the Holocaust, even going back to times in the Torah where particular calamities occurred to the people. So you can imagine these 3 weeks are hard, and these 3 weeks are dark and get darker. But then something happens. Then we find ourselves here, right? And as I mentioned before, the shift from last week to this week is a shift from grief to a shift of a celebration of love and joy. And the liturgy that the rabbis put in place, the readings that they offer us, specifically with the Haftarah, the reading from prophets that we'll hear Levi Lane chant for us a little bit later this morning, specifically with those, they give us a little bit of a map of understanding this time of the year. Because there were 3 corresponding to those 3 weeks that were Haftarot de Pur Anuta, Haftarot of oppression or Haftarot of suffering. And they weren't particularly uplifting messages from the prophets. They were a lot of, here's what y'all are doing wrong. But this Shabbat is called Shabbat Nachamu, Shabbat comfort or consolation, because now we've made our shift into 7 Haftarot, 7 readings from the prophets of Nechemta, of comfort or of consolation. And today's the first one, so it's a good day to be here. It's a good day to celebrate. And I want to offer our tradition today to us as maybe a little bit of a roadmap for understanding our own personal journeys and our collective journey that we might need to take, recognizing that we are not through this pandemic, but thank God as we sit here, many of us together, sure, the heat's a little bit rough, but we're here, right? And we can come together in person because, thank God, we are all vaccinated in this space. and we are therefore able to do things we couldn't do a year ago. So here are some things that I want to offer us in terms of our own journey of healing. One is, you might have noticed I said there were 3 haftarot of Puranut, 3 of affliction, and 7 of nechama, 7 of healing, of consolation, right? I think it's important to recognize that we need time. We need more time to heal and to recover in life than the amount of time, perhaps, that the experience of suffering actually took, or the damage, or the breaking down, or the destruction, however we may see that. So that's number one. And so to be patient with ourselves and to carve out that time. It is on the calendar for a reason, right? To actually designate time to process and to feel and to think and to grieve and then to heal, right? The grieving was those 3 weeks and the mourning, but then there's the healing. The Parsha says, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. Be comforted, my people. This is the words of Isaiah, right? And this double language, one commentary, Ibn Ezra says, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. The comfort is to be administered immediately or repeatedly, right? It's not enough to just sit once, talk about what happened, and then assume that we are going to be okay. And that's okay, right? Repeatedly, until we feel like we can move on, until we feel like we can move to the next thing, which I'll tell you about in just a few moments. That the next line says, Dabru alev Yerushalayim. Speak on the heart. Speak on the heart. And that's, I think, advice number 2, which is know the heart. Think about the heart, not just the mind and the intellect of what we've all been experiencing, and to really think about the feelings, right? To access our own hearts and then to speak to one another's hearts. And one commentary says, what does that mean? It means to speak kindly and gently, right? And I would say to others and especially to ourselves, because I think we often offer other people grace and love that maybe we don't direct towards ourselves and have higher expectations. I want to offer you the last piece of those haftarot. So we have 3 of Puranut, 3 of affliction, 7 of comfort or consolation. And that's where we are right now. But the teaching doesn't end there, because that is not the end in and of itself. Consolation, comfort, however we feel that, however we see that, that's not where we end up. That's a part of this path towards tshuva, towards the high holidays, and towards return and repentance and reflection and growth, and ultimately, please God, transformation. So I want to bless us that as we walk this journey together, one that I recognize sadly and tragically is not done. And I pray for all those who are able to get vaccinated to do so, to protect yourselves, to protect your loved ones, to help us as a society move forward and eradicate this pandemic as quickly as we possibly can. And yet, knowing that there has been movement, and here we are, I want to bless us that we take advantage of this gift on the calendar of this time to recognize what it is that we may have been through, and to see that for and with one another, and to give ourselves a little bit of space to heal, to be comforted, and then ultimately to grow, to learn, and be transformed. Shabbat Shalom.